August 21st. I have carved out a lovely little home for myself on the island. It is a thatched hut created for me by the builders. Hay and discarded clothing make up my bed. An old rocking chair, a wooden table. It is simple, but it's my home. My window looks out on the neighboring forest. The ocean is around 20 yards away. If I listen closely, I can hear the seagulls in the morning and the faint sound of waves crashing against the rocks. It is a peaceful existence, one that I sometimes still fear will be taken away from me at any second. But over these last few weeks, I have learned to push those fears aside and just enjoy the moment. I walk the island each morning, exploring the shores, the forest, nearby mountains. I sometimes see a few islanders on my walk. We wave and greet each other kindly, but keep mostly to ourselves. I haven't made any lasting friendships yet, aside from Christopher, a master builder, who made me my chair, and his children, Katie and Owen. Christopher came here with his wife and children. They were one of the first settlers. They were the smart ones, leaving the mainland as soon as there were signs that the dead could rise. They didn't wait like I did, hoping the government would save us. His wife passed away 6 months ago from a pre-existing illness. Signs that even on this island paradise, life and death are still out of our hands. Christopher is calm and quiet. He enjoys working with his hands, creating something from nothing. He is content with knowing that his children are safe here. I share in his content, for this island does feel like a chance at a new life. For a time, I can forget about the despair I experienced on the mainland these past few years. But then sometimes, a gesture, a smell, a glancing thought reminds me, and I'm right back there, scared, starving, walking for miles with no plan or thought of where I was going. But then I just breathe, and I recall the people I encountered along the way, those who were fortunate to survive, and those who were not. And I feel tinges of regret and selfishness that I can experience this and they cannot. I have thought long and hard about what I want to do to contribute to this society. I've tried becoming a gardener, but found it difficult and monotonous. I tried becoming a cook, but I have little skill and patience in that area. I even tried becoming a seeker for a few weeks, partnering up with a man named James, but seasickness quickly ended that idea. Charlie has been patient with me as I try and find my niche, but I'm getting restless. What is my purpose? Having a home where I can live and an island I can explore, it's wonderful, but there must be more to life than this. As I look out at the sea each evening as the sun sets, I find myself drawn back to the place I worked so hard to escape. I just can't stop thinking about all the lost souls who are still out there, struggling and alone, like I was. But I'm scared to go back. Here, it's safe, it's comfortable. Back there, everything is so uncertain and dangerous. So why am I drawn to return? Why do I wish to leave my home, which has been so fruitful with its gifts of security and goodwill? What am I still searching for? Charlie joins me on the shore. It is dark now. All I can hear is the gentle waves and our breaths. I sense you have found your role, Charlie says softly. Would you like to tell me about it? I bite my lip, hesitating. Do not be afraid, Charlie tells me. You know what it is. I take a deep breath, pushing back all my fears and anxieties. She's right. I know what I must do. I know why the sea calls to me. I know why I can't stop dreaming about the mainland. I turn to her and say, I wish to be an explorer. September 1st. I set sail with James for the mainland, forcing myself not to look back at my island home. Charlie has armed me with warm blankets, a map and compass, enough rations to last 2 months, and a rifle. She assures me that I will return home soon, and that she and my home will be here when I do. My orders are to travel to the Midwest via the Atlantic Ocean, and once I arrive on land, to explore the country in front of me in search of survivors. I will search for 1 month and then return to where James left me. He will pick up a few survivors along the coast before returning to get me. The seekers are instructed to wait 2 days on the coast in case a survivor is running late, and then they must leave. They are never in one position for too long. I ask James how many explorers have missed their pickup or never returned. He doesn't answer and just looks ahead. I suspected as many, but I knew the risk when I agreed to this assignment. I wanted to help find people. Still, being so far from my island home, it stirred up these old-seated anxieties again of being on my own. What if I don't find anyone? Or worse, what if the dead find me? I shake those thoughts from my mind and remember my purpose. My sacrifice could mean saving the lives of others, just as I was saved by so many during my travels. 1 month of searching, and then I can return home again. That is the goal. I can do this, I tell myself. I am an explorer now, and I will succeed. September 23rd. We have finally reached what used to be Michigan. Summer has turned into autumn before my very eyes. The wind has a slight chill, and the trees that greet us are a majesty of red and orange colors. James wishes me luck and makes note of the date. October 23rd is when I will return. He reminds me that if I do not return by the 25th, he will leave, so I must make my journey back to the ship before then. I tell him I understand and wish him luck as well. He sets sail, and I am left on my own. I leave the safety of the lake and walk deep into a sea of trees. The leaves are beautiful. They envelop me like a warm cocoon, falling under feet, in my hair, in the air. I breathe in the crisp air and take 1 step at a time, just 1 foot in front of the other, I tell myself. Keep your eyes peeled. Be alert. I search for any signs of life around me. but it's clear. It's just me and the trees out here. Don't worry, I remind myself. You will not be alone. You will find survivors. And so I walk. I walk through miles of forest, stopping only to eat and rest before continuing my quest. The forest empties into a meadow, a flat field full of flowers. I give in to the urge to run through the fields, my arms out, the breeze flowing through my hair. It feels rather silly, but I'm in a silly mood today. I remind myself that I am an adventurer on an important mission to save souls, even if it's only my own for the moment. How few the happy moments have been these past few years, and only in these last 2 months have I truly felt joy for longer than a day. It feels indulgent and somehow unearned to have this much happiness with something so silly as running through a meadow. What a sad thought, I muse, to feel selfish and undeserving of a passing moment of fancy. When were the days when everything wasn't so gloom and doom? The days when we could delight in happy moments, spent alone or with loved ones, without worrying about the ground dropping out from under us. When we didn't fear fate, or the gods, or the universe punishing us. Could we be finally past these gloomy moments, I hope? Maybe we're on the other side of it, stronger and wiser. Maybe the dead have left us for good, and it's time for us to rebuild. I dare to hope that this path is the start of a new outlook, a path that looks forward bravely and not behind, that gazes up confidently and not down in fear. A path that will help me reach my destiny. October 10th. I have explored Michigan for several weeks with no humans in sight. An old bike was gifted to me early on in the journey, allowing me to cover more ground. The map tells me I'm in Indiana now. Soon, I will have to turn back if I am to make it in time to rendezvous with James. But something inside me tells me to give it one more day of exploring before I have to turn back and call it quits. I just know someone is out there. There must be a survivor waiting to be saved. There has to be. If not, my mission will have failed, and I'll need to return back to the island empty-handed. I know Charlie will not be disappointed. She will comfort me in her motherly, all-knowing ways, saying it just wasn't meant to be, that I can always go back out and continue searching, that at least I have returned safe. But I cannot help but feel an overwhelming disappointment that my first adventure out may end in failure. Day turns into night, and I am still alone. My journey isn't all bad, though, for I have stumbled upon a nice resting place for tonight. It is an old train, abandoned long ago to the elements. I explore the cars, remembering a time long ago when I commuted on a contraption such as this every weekday. Funny how simple and mundane life was back then. Traveling in silence with other commuters to a job that was just as mundane as the transport. Losing oneself in music, thoughts, a book, never once reaching out to another and saying hello. All moving silently, taking for granted our financial stability, our luxury, our time, our freedom. How naive we all were. I curl up into one of the cars, cover myself with ripped up old newspaper, and remember better times when worrying about whether or not I would get a raise that year was my greatest fear. When I could call up anyone I knew without hesitation. When I never truly had to be alone. Simpler times. Simpler times. October 11th. I awake to find her standing over me, staring into my eyes. I sit up and stare back at her, speechless. She is beautiful, her brown hair flowing in the wind that drifts through the windows, her face serious, but not stern. My speechlessness surprises me, for I should be jumping for joy. I have found my first survivor on my last day. But there's just something about her that takes my breath away. Maybe it's her eyes, for in them I find no skepticalness, no uncertainty, no anger, just relief. I thought everyone was gone, she tells me, her eyes filled with gratitude now, that I was the only one left. She reaches her hand out to touch me, but then pulls back, the first sign of fear that I've seen from her. It's as if she wants to touch me to see if I'm real. She must have been alone a long time. I take that cue to stand slowly and put my hands out in welcome. It's okay, I tell her. I am here to help. You are not alone. There are more of us, safe, living on an island away from the mainland. Tears form in her eyes. I thought I was alone, she whispers. I put my hand on her shoulder. She doesn't recoil. You're not alone, I tell her. She sighs and takes my hand in hers gently. Please, she tells me, I need to know everything. We walk outside and sit in the grass under the autumn sun. I tell her my name and of my journey, of the dead that I've seen, of the island and Charlie. She tells me her name is Serena, and that she has been alone for over a year. She has not left the state since this all began. She was terrified to stray too far from home. After the rising of the dead, her father took her to live in a secure estate that a friend of the family owned. The house was magnificent. It had gates, safe rooms, everything they needed. There they had access to a secret stash that her father collected from nearby factories and warehouses. He was a distributor in his old life, so he knew where to look. They lived there comfortably for many years, until a vicious fight between her father and his friend resulted in both their deaths, and Serena being on her own. She stayed inside the home until her supplies ran out, and then ventured only as far as she needed to acquire more supplies before returning. She hasn't met many people in her journeys, and those she did meet were fleeting acquaintances. She never told them where she lived, for fear they would try and take it from her. She lived in that house for a long time, alone, until a few months ago she just couldn't take the isolation anymore. She had to venture out and see if there was anyone left. She's explored the state, but saw no one. Until now. You don't have to be alone any longer, I remind her. Back where I live, there is enough food and water and shelter for all of us. Charlie has built a new society to start again. It's not perfect, But it's home, and it's safe. You could make a home there, Serena. I could take you. Serena bites her lip, looks off into the distance. I know that conflicted look. I've worn it many times. To stay or to go. To trust or to flee. Could she trust me? Could this new life be better, or could it be worse? It was a difficult decision, and unfortunately, there was not much time to think about it. I must leave soon, I tell her, if I am returned in time to meet my boat. Why don't you walk with me to my boat, meet James? Then you can decide. Serena smiles, a calm look on her face. She nods silently and stands to gather her things. We walk side by side down empty roads, through the scented meadows and the luscious forests. We share more of ourselves, our stories, our fears, our regrets. She listens intently, eagerly, seemingly delighting in the conversation. I know how she must feel, for it was not long ago that I was hungry for that companionship, for the sound of another person's voice, for someone to listen, to delight in the presence of another human being, giving of themselves and receiving your attention as well, and allowing yourself to trust. I can't help but stare in her eyes. They are so honest and pure, no signs of annoyance or inauthenticness. My cynical self wonders if it could be a trap. Could someone this innocent live in this world? We've only just met, and yet as we talk, it is so easy, so natural. As we walk further together under a setting sun, I let go of those insecurities that I'm holding on to. I forget about the pains of the past, the fears of the future, and I allow myself just to walk with her. This is a good moment, I think. I hope it lasts. October 23rd. Serena and I have reached the Michigan coast. We spot James's boat in the distance. Serena grabs my hand, fear in her eyes. I squeeze it gently and tell her that it will be okay. She looks at me with a longing in her eyes that nearly breaks my heart. Tell me again about the island, she pleads. Tell me about it. I pull her into a warm embrace, my chin on her head. It's a lovely place, Serena. The neighbors are kind and generous. Children are being born every day, and their innocence is powerful. They have never known what it's like to live amongst the dead, and God willing, they never will. They play freely and uninhibited in the woods, building tree houses, burying trinkets, finding natural treasures. The trees are tall and green. They cocoon us into a woodland that goes on for miles, leading to cascading hills and mountains that provide a majestic view of the island. And the water, it's clear and blue, filled with fish and crabs and the most delicious seafood you could ever imagine. The sand beneath your feet is warm and soft. You can lay on it for hours, listening to the waves gently crashing against the shore and falling asleep under thousands of bright stars. Serena sighs and squeezes me tight. I pull back to face her, gently caressing her cheek. We can make a home there, I tell her. You and me. We can leave behind the heartbreak and the pain of living amongst the dead or in isolation these past few years. On the island, we can start over. We can rebuild. We can do more than survive, Serena. We can thrive. And as I say it, I am surprised to find that there is no hesitancy or irony in my voice, for I truly believe it. With Serena on this island, I can truly be happy. Finally. I look into those beautiful brown eyes that I fell in love with the first day I met her, and I ask her the question, will you come with me? She hesitates, her eyes deep in thought again. I hold my breath and think back to my life since it all began. The highs and the lows, the people and the destinations, the doubts and the hopes. It's all culminated in this moment. I am frightened of what she might say. What if she says no? Then I will be alone again, and I will have failed. But what if she says yes? Will we be happy? Will the island stay safe forever? That all familiar anxiety rises up within me. But then, in an instant, all of it just disappears and goes quiet. For Serena squeezes my hand and smiles at me. And in that moment, lost in her smile, I am calm. I am free. I know I am where I need to be. Because no matter what happens, with her, I am home.